Good evening. Tonight we're going to be doing a lot of Crystalline Conflict ranked, specifically as Scholar. So I hope you find that exciting. We're going to be spreading a lot of dots. And let's just get right into it. I'll just queue immediately and then we'll see how quickly we get a match. Just to start, let's just to pass the time, go quickly over the general toolkit of the Scholar in PvP. Never mind, we have a match. Hey Raven, I hope you're doing well. The general game plan of the Scholar is that it has a dot that does a lot of damage and also makes the enemy deal less damage. And then it has its shield, which also makes the receiver do more damage. Which means that technically the Scholar can make like a 16% output difference between the two teams by spreading this correctly. But the thing is that you have two charges of deployment tactics, but technically you don't get them often enough that you can spread more than one of the two as a match progresses. You can also only use Expedient once every 30 seconds to increase the value of the next one by 50%. Which, again, has the effect that it is going to be every second dot that is going to do a lot of damage. A neat trick is that Summon Seraph also adds the recitation effect from Expedient. So when we have the limit break, we can do like 3 almost boosted dialysis over the course of a long fight. Now, matches tend to not go that far, where you have 45 seconds of constant fighting where some people don't die. But hey, we'll see what happens. Hehe. Nice. Oh. Oh, can we save him? We cannot. I will do the pushing then. He can have the dot. So another detail is that the Scholar has a really underused extra skill in mummification, which heavily reduces the healing that people do for a while. So if someone is getting barraged heavily, you can make it impossible for them to keep up with the healing they need by simply weakening it. Oh no. My dot was wasted because I put it on the wrong person. Oh, we need to be careful. The samurai is just about to have limit break ready. Oh yeah, something that I randomly discovered is that if the samurai puts up their fancy debuff or fancy shield, it doesn't count if the Scholar spreads their shield to them indirectly. That was an awkward escape. Uh-oh. This was a bad place. I haven't done this particular match, this particular level very many times, so I'm not particularly familiar with all the floor traps and stuff. Where's the crystal? It's far away. Nice. That was a good stun. Nope, don't care about your fancy shield, Samurai. You don't have the limit break, so it's not that threatening. He still doesn't have it. Are we ahead? Ah, I used my dot on the wrong person. That's, I think that's painful. Nice. Got it. See, how much damage did I get to do? Oh, I had expected more. Normally in front lines, scholars look absolutely ridiculous on the damage. So what I was getting at is that, for instance, deployment tactics makes both Adlocurium, the shield with damage bonus, and Biolysis, the damage with the damage down, really powerful. But because you can technically only choose one every 15 seconds and you only get one extra from the charge system, you have to make the choice, which meant that near the end there, I had to make the choice to shield my party instead of dotting up the enemies, which arguably might not have been the best decision. Because they had the resulting effect that I sort of just stood there waiting for my deployment tactics to be ready, because Biolysis doesn't feel very powerful without it. Hello Lilithia, how are you doing? And welcome to the stream. So actually, the reason why I got the win streak is that I practiced a little bit of Crystalline Conflict in this new map, but I did that as summoner. So this is my second match as a scholar in Crystalline Conflict this season. But both of the wins with summoner happened to well, it happens to be both wins. Lilithia says you play White Mage and Astrologian just like in PvE. Alright. That also works. Raven says they don't have a healer. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. That means a little bit more, though. They're completely out of position. Ugh. This reminds me of E9. The in Eden. Lilithia got to Crystal with Ninja in season 1 and Astrologian in season 2. I only got to Crystal in season 1 and I did that with Red Mage. Hey Shadow Center, it has been a while. I hope you're doing well. Are you liking the new map? It's very strange. That much I can say, but I think I'm sort of getting some of the mechanics. I will push the crystal. Scholar has a really, really strong benefit in being able to very cleanly be able to push the crystal, because the vast majority of my value comes in me placing a dot on someone and calling it a day. Oh! That was incredible. That was incredibly effective. But it is an interesting map, this new one. I've only played on it 2 times outside of the stream, so I'm still having to get used to some of the mechanics on it. Lilithia says, I've finished this map a single time. It's such a strange map that you rarely finish it. That's true, I think that was the first time I saw the enemy's base. I was completely surprised that we had already pushed that far. But I think it's a cool map. And, more importantly, I like it a lot more than Cloud9. I really am not the biggest fan of Cloud9. It's just weird. It feels really only good for very specific jobs. Oh no, the good warrior from the last match is on the enemy team now. Cloud9 is the one with the wind and the tornadoes. I believe it's the one that they've specifically reduced the amount of times it appears in the cycle now. Shadow Center says, I personally love it because the teleport doors lead to interesting shenanigans. I think that it's very interesting that the teleport doors mean that they lead to a lot more aggressive starter. And that's how it feels. It isn't really, but it feels like it's more aggressive. Because the weird lopsidedness of it means that you're pushing, like you're coming from the side, you're going to pull the crystal instead of going to the side where you're going to push it. That is the samurai that went completely out of position. The last map is on our side. Oh no, I don't have any shields to apply. Right? Give him the heal down preemptively, so even if he got away, he would have a hard time healing up. Oh. I need to help him a little bit if I can. He's having a hard time recovering. Yeah, Ninja, you don't want to chase me this far. I guess he did. I guess he did. The second door path. Which one is that? Is it that one? Nope. It is not. That was a mistake, but it was a mistake I had to have. And I made 2 mistakes all at once. Oh man, that's a very overwhelming amount of damage. I wasn't sure what to do there. Hey Kwasabi, how are you doing? We might be losing this one. The best we can do is stand back and try to wait for our team to recover, but I don't know if we have those kinds of resources, especially if the samurai tries the potion while standing on the floor mats like that. I feel like I hear the sound of a ninja just doing its limit break repeatedly. But it might be our ninja that did that, based on the limit breaks. Ah. I think we had a case of, because I saw the crystal start moving, I think we had a case of the timer ran out the instant that one of our players wasn't on it. That's really unfortunate. It looked like we were just about to get a chance to recover. Oh well, it's okay. Kasari said, oh, and Shadow Center just gave me the, it's the right door for the beginning. Oh yeah, I see. Well, oh yeah, I see it. I get it. And Kasari says, I'm unsure what to do at the moment. I'm tempted to do the new alliance raid with friends, but there are things happening in multiple groups. Well, if you want to do the new alliance raid, I wouldn't recommend that you do it. Remember that it has a weekly lockout, so if you miss out the opportunity, there are some items that you just won't get. And we're talking item level 630 gear kinds of items, not just, ooh, it's glamour. I would highly advise that you make sure that you get it done. Lilifia says, I see so many ninjas just wasting their limit break on one target, that's alone. Yeah, well, sniping the correct target might have a huge impact. The ninja getting me killed specifically had me reeling for the rest of the match, where I never really got an opportunity to do much. So it might have been exactly what their team needed to push our team off balance. Remember, in PvP, it's not about doing the most damage or getting the most kills. It's about getting the correct damage and the correct kills. Yes, a lot of damage helps, and a lot of kills helps. That means there's a far higher chance that amongst the kills and damage you did, there was the right one. That's why Scholar has an easy time with getting a lot of damage done. If the rest of the team can capitalize on the damage the Scholar does, then it doesn't really matter who the Scholar is attacking, because if you put down a Biologist correctly at the start, you've done 100,000 damage. And you have to remember, because it is a dot, it's a snapshot, so if you can spread it before someone uses guard, then all of the enemies are taking 100,000 damage, and there's nothing they can do about it. Nice. Now, that was a wasted dot, but nearly everything was dead anyway, so... Now, if I can stay on the platform for the rest of the match, then the enemy is in an extremely awkward position. What? Oh boy! Oh, ninja limit break coming up. Make sure I don't get snuck up on. Take the wheel, guys. I need healing. Nope. Nope. I should have used Expedient. That was a mistake. I might have been able to get out of that safely if I tried to outrun them, but instead I was looking at something else. Alright, where's my team? Bit scattered all over the place. I'll run forward. Oh, Samurai has limit break. Never mind. He didn't do anything with it. Livia says, Scholar feels a lot weaker than White Mage and Astrologian. Well, part of the reason is that a lot of the value in Scholar is a lot more technical. Like, the reason why Scholar gets kills done is because if the Scholar manages to just apply their dot, then they have already halfway killed nearly everyone. Because the dot is so brutally powerful. And similarly, the healing reduction from mummification doesn't have, like, it doesn't do any numbers at all. So the ability for the Scholar to kill someone isn't actually in the Scholar killing anyone. It's the fact that you see everyone else pounding on you, and then you see the Scholar, like, whiff a puff of smoke at you, and suddenly your healing doesn't really work that well. Let's take a look. Actually, we didn't get a chance to do that at the start of the stream, so let's take a little look at the Scholar toolkit. So, we were talking about mummification. It's just 6,000 damage, but if you use it efficiently, it's 25% less healing done, with up to 50% uptime. The 6,000 damage isn't that important. It's not that important, but the healing reduction means that if you dump it on someone that is low health, you know they're going to click recuperate. Often, if you see someone you do the dummy guard, you know, they're extremely outnumbered. They click guard to camp the crystal. The likely thing they're doing next is click recuperate. So you just run up to them and give them that 600 mummification hit, but that means that they have to wait with clicking heal, or risk losing, well, about, how much is it? About 3,000-4,000 per recuperate they choose to use during mummification, and usually those 4,000 adds up. Like, you do 6,000, someone clicks recuperate, now that's closer to 10,000 because they didn't get healing. Similarly, and this is the more silent killer, Biolysis does 15,000 damage over its duration. But if you use Expedient, and in most cases you will use Expedient on Biolysis, it's 22,500 damage. On something like a Black Mage, that's nearly 50% of their health. And should the Scholar choose to put up their shield first, which increases their damage by 8%, it's closer to 24,000 damage. So you can put up Adlocurium, which is a small shield. And it is deceptively weak shield, but the damage bonus it provides is the more important part. Similarly, Biolysis not only does an astronomical amount of damage per cast, it also reduces the damage the enemy does. And then, that's pretty much the entire toolkit. Expedient has a little niche feature that tends to be overlooked, because people use it for the recitation effect for Biolysis, but it also makes you run faster. Not sprint fast, but 25% faster, which means that if your opponent doesn't have a lot of gap closers to keep up with you, you can just walk away from them. You can just run. Casually stroll away from them while shielding yourself. I've gotten away from a lot of potential deaths in frontline by using Expedient, Adlocurium, and guard at a convenient time, and just casually leave because it becomes too complex and difficult to kill the Scholar. And then there's the part that once you've, used your toolkit, which is very limited, the only thing you're doing is cast Broil. It's 5,000 damage per cast, that's not bad, but it means that you see the Scholar, shield up their party, run up, dot your team. You can kill the Scholar now. The Scholar isn't going to do very much for the next 15 seconds. The worst person to target is the Scholar after they've shielded everyone and dotted up your team. You should not target the Scholar after that, because they're literally just there casting Broil. That would be my advice, at least. Lilithia says, I use White Mage in low ranks and Astrologian as Scholar in high ranks because White Mage can carry hard by itself. Well, certainly, Astrologian is a lot more dependent on their team doing the heavy lifting because it's more supportive than White Mages. The reason why I like Scholar is because it's more like a middle ground between the solo lifting of White Mage and the support of an Astrologian. So we can stay the same job and use the experience we happen to gain playing Scholar. We can carry that all the way to high rank. In the previous time I did a lot of Crystalline Conflict, the disadvantage I experienced was that we're very, very split up. This is bad. Nope, couldn't save you there. That is a terrible situation. Ah. So this is a return of a piece of advice that I have that I've given sometimes back when I did Crystalline Conflict previously. And this is just general PvP teamwork advice. It's better to agree on a bad strategy than to not agree on anything. The reason why we're in huge trouble now is because the warrior decided to do something completely on their own. Which means that, yeah, we went into... Not only did the enemy get to choose when we engaged, but they also got to have it as a 5v4 because the warrior died immediately. So, just a piece of advice. If you're going to... Shadow Center, if you're going to do those shenanigans with running in on the left there to do a back attack on the enemy, make sure the party knows. Make sure the party knows. It does not work if you're alone. Shadow Center says, my favorite PvP jobs are between Monk, Gunbreaker, and Dancer. Kinda different from my main PvE jobs being Astrologian, Monk, and Dark Knight. Oh. Play Monk like a hound. Pester a backline target until an opportunity arises before flitting to the other one and bapping them and not just nuking with the limit break combo. Yeah, that is a pretty good strategy. I haven't had very much good experience with playing Monk myself, but I do know that it's very, very difficult to deal with, especially as a squishy. You just have that Monk pelting you with punches. And the only thing you can choose to do is either try to ignore it and then he does a knockback on you or a stun. Or you turn and try to fight them. Like, when I played Red Mage, like, I basically played only Red Mage back in Season 1, my most hated opponent was to fight against a Monk. It was because I knew that Monks had the capability to basically wombo combo me from full to zero alone. And I had very little, like, counterplay to that. So if the Monk got their combo just right, I was dead. And that's not very fun to have to play around. Also, old map. The classic Palystra. Which Crystalline Conflict map is you guys' favorite? I like Palystra. It's very... Why am I getting dance partner? What? Well, agree on a bad strategy is better than disagree and have no strategy. This is absurdly difficult to recover from. The reason why I hate the speedway strategy where you try to get behind your enemy is because you are not fooling anyone. You're not fooling anyone by running up behind them like that. Everyone's looking at the speedway in the initial part of the fight. You don't do it. Just don't do it, man. It never works. I never ever see it work. But people insist on doing it. After all that, Mr. Dragoon. Yeah, can't do very much about that. Whew, man. But let me repeat. Do not use those shenanigan strategies. If your entire team is ready for it, it might work. But if you run up to the speedway and like take a step forward and a step back, you know, the unspoken way to tell your party to go this way, the enemy team has already positioned themselves to be ready for it. Nearly no one is going to fall forward for it. Don't do it. Don't try to do the shenanigans. It's better to meet your opponent in a proper way instead of trying to break their position immediately. You saw one of the first matches we won extremely quickly, when we won within a minute, was because the samurai tried to do some shenanigans on the other team. That was the reason. It was that quickly. Maximus says, hi, I was the dancer in P6 messaging you today. Oh, hi! I hope you're doing well. And thank you so much. Yeah, I don't recommend the shenanigans strategies. They tend to never work. At least to me. And Shadow Center says, Gunbreaker is the good old jack of all. Depending on team composition, I even use heal junction to outlast the other team. Typically I use it like an assassin though. Yeah, that's what I've heard, is that a lot of players think that Gunbreaker having the ability to choose isn't that useful, because most will choose DPS junction, except the ones that don't. And that's why they need the junction mechanic. Lilithia says, the flank strategy can work a lot as a ninja. You did it a lot in Season 1. Well, Season 1 could work, because a lot of the time people were still learning what did and didn't work. People weren't as used to the specific shenanigans that people will do. But these days, I feel like most people that play Crystalline Conflict know these kinds of tricks. Like, you're not going to trick anyone as likely, at least, anymore. That's what I'm saying, more so than it never works. It's more that players that have done some Crystalline Conflict are not going to get tricked. But it of course it depends. It always depends. Ah. I could not out-heal the fell cleaves. Yeah, exactly, Lilith, yeah. The thing is, when you try to flank the enemy team, you're also simultaneously putting yourself in the awkward position that if the enemy team sees you, now you're dead. Like, immediately you're dead. Ooh, that was a clean machinist limit break. Hey, Wavy, how are you doing? Is no one going to stop me? This is what I mean by doing the mummification like at the tail end of their guard, because I was expecting the white mage to be ready with a ton of healing. It wasn't as much as I expected that actually came out, but I was expecting that they were the thing they were having their hand over while they were guarding was recuperate and cure. And if you can cut a fourth of that, it makes it a lot easier to kill them. And Shadow Center says, my favorite map depends on what job I'm in the mood to play. Yeah, that makes sense. I liked Volcanic Heart a lot more when I played Red Mage, because Red Mage is very, like, really loves all those corners that you can line of sight people on. Which sounds really silly, since Red Mage is a mage, but they don't cast that much. They spend most of the time just finding someone to melee combo. Yeah, exactly, Wavy. They were just... I was just standing there pushing, but I guess that my team was having them in a pretty tight grip. That was a very awkward part at the end also, because I saw two Bahamut's and I wasn't sure which one was my team's at first. Well, that is certainly an effective way to make your team take a step back at the start. To look like you're AFK. Nice. The full party dot. Oh yeah, the Seraph is surprisingly effective also, by the way. It does a lot of damage. Or a lot of healing, I should say, over its duration, and people don't really notice that. Ow! Yeah, I had a feeling. Poof! Puff of smoke. You're dead. Get the crystal! Where's the paladin? I think we got them. Now we might have someone else dying. Get it, Pepe Hands! You got them! Uh-oh. There was the samurai limit break and the so-called whoopsie. Lilithia, it's not actually a heal over time, it's even more complicated. It's even more complicated than that. So, I think everyone knows that Bahamut and Phoenix will be attacking while they're on the field. Seraph does three things. You place it, And when you place it, you both get Recitation, and it casts Seraph Flight, which gives you the next debuff you get is just nullified on everyone in the circle. And it also puts excogitation on everyone, so anyone that is below 50% health immediately gets 8,000 healing, or if you don't need it now, you'll get 8,000 when you need it, or in 20 seconds, which is really powerful. Then, a few seconds after Seraph is spawned, you can use Consolation to then heal everyone and put up an extra barrier. But while the Seraph is just hanging out, it will cast Seraphic Veil on people, which also is 4,000 healing and 4,000 shield. And Olivia says, is that only in the circle or everywhere? So I believe the Seraph Flight is the circle, that's why it's only 10 yards, that's why the circle is relatively small. Consolation is 20 yards, so that's, you know, twice that. So that's pretty much anyone that is in the general area of the Seraph. And Seraphic Veil is 30 yalms, which is, well, I think we might be able to showcase that. Let's see, that is 10. Hey Robert, how are you doing? Yeah, when you put down Seraph, it's going to cast something like 6 Seraphic Veils. So the initial placement is going to help anyone that needs the healing to survive as the Seraph is starting to prepare. And then Seraphic Veil might keep the person that needs it the most alive. And then you use Consolation to a big AoE Seraphic Veil. It does an immense amount of healing and it's only 90 seconds. The thing is, what makes Summon Seraph so incredibly underwhelming is, I believe, all of the other healers, their limit breaks are damage. Like, they actually have like a damage label on them of some sort. I believe Astrologian gives an enormous damage difference between enemies and allies. Like, your team does way more damage and the enemy does way less. Sage flat out blocks damage, and anyone that steps in takes 8,000 per 3 seconds or something like that. 2 or 3 seconds. And White Mage has its laser beam. Ironically, the White Mage laser beam is the stronger laser beam, not the Sage one. And then Scholar's limit break is pretty much healing, debuff prevention, shields, and then it just so happens to feature damage indirectly by the simple fact that Recitation is almost always used on Biolysis. Is it only 10%? I thought it was like 30%. Well, that certainly explains why Biolysis doing 8% and Adlocurium doing 8%, and they used to be 10%, why that was a little bit overpowered. But I get why you would like underestimate Scholar. I feel like if you see Scholar in frontline, most of what you're going to see is like the memes with with the absolutely absurd damage by spreading your dot to every single enemy, and that makes it seem like what Scholar actually does is kind of veiled by that fact that it's obvious that if you have a dot you can spread to everyone, and then obviously you're going to do an absurd amount of damage. What Scholar actually does is kind of hidden behind that. Oh, is the enemy doing the flank? It looks like some of them might. Nope, can't save him. I know that it is a little underwhelming time to check out of the fight, but I have some cooldowns I was waiting for anyway. Oh boy, I love me a Dragoon limit break in the morning. Yes, pair up with it. Yes, thank you. Oh, okay, I didn't actually get to do it. I was really hoping to like just jump my dot from one enemy to the next. I hope that heal was exactly in time. I think it was. Like, I was spamming to get it out just as the elixir would end. Nope. Way too late if it was the enemy limit break, and I think it was based on the ninja no longer having a limit break on their team. We need to get the Dark Knight before their limit break becomes ready, otherwise this is going to take all day. Nice. We're back to streak bonus. Let's see, Lilifia says Astrologian limit break is 10% damage increase and 10% damage resistance, so it's oh right, exactly. That was the thing I was thinking of. I remembered that it was like some sort of damage like effect drop off. But if it is, let's actually, instead of me just talking about it, how about we just check? Astrologian, there we are. Reduces damage dealt by nearby enemies by 30% and increases damage dealt by self and nearby party members by 30%, and it drops by 10% every 5 seconds, so it's average 20% effect for its full duration. But it is 30, 20, 10. The important part here is that it is not damage resistance. It is enemies that happen to be near you when you use it do less damage. It's an important distinction, because if it was damage like reduction to your party members, you could just cast it and then run in. But there's also another thing, because doesn't Astrologian have like a whole card mechanic here? Because those will stack. Like, these things will stack if you use the balance and your limit break at the same time. That's not 40%, that's going to be 44% damage increase. 44%. And then we're talking like a percentage where, oh yeah, Machinist can't one-shot anyone with a limit break. They can't one-shot anyone with a limit break, but what if it did 50% more damage? What if it did 50% more damage? How much is it? 36,000. So if it did 18,000 more, then there are jobs that would just flat out die out of nowhere with no ability to counterplay. And I just want to clarify or repeat that while Scholar had a reputation of being sort of meh in Crystalline Conflict, like in Season 1 and 2, I believe, Scholar was nerfed. Like, Adlocurium and Dialysis was reduced to 8% from 10%, while Scholar was, you know, just a sometimes you see it kind of encounter. Like, you saw a White Mage on both teams in every match. White Mage gets Miracle of Nature nerfed again. Scholar also gets a nerf. Just randomly, you just imagine like the nerf pad getting, like, just getting smacked on White Mage, and then it just like the leftover force just flops over and smacks the Scholar, and like, oh, what did I do? I would say, Lilithia, that a limit break that has no like immediate effect, because the Astrologian limit break has no immediate effect. How's a good explanation? So the thing is, you're locking yourself in the animation of casting this Celestial River limit break, which is not instant. It takes a little bit. And you apply, you add nothing in that very instant. Now, you don't do anything, which makes you extremely vulnerable, which means that it's a very dangerous proposition to use it while you're in range of multiple enemies. It's now I don't play it that much, but if you've played Yu-Gi-Oh! Specifically, playing a card that has no effect, just playing it down on the field and it does nothing, which means that it's just like a chump that just does damage when it gets to attack, is really dangerous, especially if it doesn't get to attack that turn, because by the time you can attack, it might be dead, which is pretty much what you're saying happens to you, Lilithia. It's dangerous to just place down something that doesn't do anything. That's why it's so incredibly powerful that the Seraph immediately does like 2 or 3 things when you place it. Because it does exactly that. It solves that problem for the Scholar. Why are we like expanding to take up more and more space? I think I ate a huge red mage melee combo while just ignoring everything around me. Gotcha! Actually, that's also like a, when you don't need the damage reduction part of the mummification, it's also very powerful to just sometimes be like a surprise hit that people don't expect. They don't expect the Scholar to just smack you upside the face with 6,000 damage. Can I survive? Yeah. Oh, I'm going to take a hit. Oh, that was the death warrant. That's a good way to put it, Shadow Sender. They really nailed the Plague Doctor theme with Scholar, didn't they? You have the ability to actually spread a minor plague on the enemies. You even have the ability to just walk up to someone and cough on them. Nice. That Black Mage, Pepe Hands, he is incredible. Absolutely incredible. I don't know if you guys noticed, but he was standing front and center, practically inviting the enemies to punch him. Because he knew he wasn't going to die, which baited so many people to try and attack him, and somehow it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. He was the only person that didn't take over 100,000 damage, and he was spending so much time up front and center. And Lilithia says, seeing you do 800,000 damage and 1 million healing as White Mage is just way too fun. Well, yeah, that also helps with the limit break doing so much damage. I'm surprised I don't get to do more damage, but I think part of the reason is that if we get a really good exchange at the start of a match, it means that my team had a Mercurium up and I managed to spread Biolysis to all the enemies. If the enemies are smart, and hopefully they are, then they will learn it the first time. And not be too close to anyone for the rest of the match. For good or bad, we need to stick closer together to share buffs and heal each other and protect each other. Yeah, but the Scholar... which probably results in a lot of lost damage on my part. But if I can force them to think like that... Oh, sorry, Lilithia. I've heavily underestimated Astrologian and Scholar because of no immediate feedback. I'll give them another go in low ranks. Oh, okay. That's what you meant. Sorry. Well, I do understand why Astrologian would have an incredibly hard time in low ranks, because, as I said, the key thing about Scholar is that it's a support job. I imagine Bard is also really, really, really rough in low ranks, because you can't rely as easily on your team. What is our Red Mage doing? Is our Red Mage... Finally! I was a little worried there. Why are you half split in either side? Come to me, guys. Please. Make a choice. Don't half seize it. We're not doing that, warrior. We're not doing it. Another lesson in don't do the shenanigans. Don't do the shenanigans, please. This is what happens. Our team is completely out of position and the enemy just gets to have a field day. Why would we focus the paladin just because it's standing on the crystal? That's exactly what he'd want you to do. Oh. Well, it's hard to say what low ranks is. I think it also depends on when you start to see more consistent teamwork. And the key thing is that as long as your team isn't reliably working together, what I said about Bard and Astrologian applies. As long as your team isn't reliably working together, you can't expect them to do teamwork well enough that you could play a job that actually has to assume that your team is working together to function. Nice. Ow. The Paladin does not have limit break. Thank you! And thank you for giving me a crowd control so I can purify something harmless. He still does not have limit break. Whoop. that is nice catch, Shadow Cinder. Anyone that didn't notice, our warriors named can't spell, but they didn't spell it right. Oh, we have to spend some wolf marks. Nilifia says, it's not low ranks as in general, only for me individual, because I know I can get to Crystal. Oh, okay, that's how you mean. Well, let me just clarify that. What I mean when I say low rank, I mean like it's a vague sense, because for some players they feel that they can teamwork with their team just fine. At a very early stage. Is that someone that sees the stream? Is this someone in the chat? I guess it is. Do you want to name yourself? Or do you just want to be the Cocoa Pearl? Hey Gunsmokes, how are you doing? And hey Mies, how are you doing? Thank you for saying that about Bard. I'm low level and some teammates don't know the meaning. Yeah. It is difficult. My experience with Bard is that its entire toolkit is designed more to support your team in killing rather than killing someone yourself. And it's Gunsmoke that has found us here in the Wolf's Den Pier. Welcome, welcome on live. And it's a bunny. Well, let us see here. Are we missing anything else we need to do? Oh, we have more rank claims. Let us continue. Ah, that was strange. Two random people teleporting at once. And that's true, Lilifia. Some of the players are really good. It's not everyone there that is bad. That's true. That's the thing, is that sometimes you win a match because one of the enemies are really, really bad. Sometimes you win a match because someone on your team is really strong. I think their name was Pretty Cute. I think I've seen them in Limsolominsa before. What is that? Precure? Have I seen about this? Well, it does look adorable. And very pink. That's a cute name. I know, right? And thank you for checking in, Gunsmokes. I think this is also something that that has made something that I had to learn the hard way in PvP. Is something when you're just starting, especially as a caster, when someone is all up in your face and attacking you, it is often that you feel inclined to start running. But surprisingly, if you just stand still and hit them back, 5,000 damage per cast is typically slightly more than what the average melee potency is going to be. Uh-oh. Oh no. Why? Why? I don't think we can be more spread out than this, guys. On the other hand, they can't be more stacked together, so have at you. We don't want to be close. That warrior's looking for an opportunity. Can we save him? We might. I think we can. That cost all of my shields, though. If he has no healing, he's dead. Nice. Oh boy. Ah. I was dead. The drill was waiting for me. Now we need some either hold back, wait for revives, or you need to use those limit breaks to turn the tide. Those are the only options. Oh wow. There was the machinist limit break again. Well, again, it's more like first it was drill and then it was limit break. Gunsmoke says, I wish PvP had normal abilities instead of that combined stuff. What do you mean exactly? Normal rotation instead of the PvP abilities. That's really funny because there's a lot of players that wish it was the other way around. Like a lot of players want those single button combo sets. I imagine that I have a huge marker over my head from the enemy's perspective. If I remember correctly, PvP used to, like, still had these stacked combo pieces, but they had a very, very, very similar rotation to how it works in how it worked in PvE. I did play it very, very briefly, but I think it's a lot better now. Because it meant that a lot of jobs had way too intricate rotations for the short bouts that PvP tends to have. A huge problem in the old PvP system was also that, and this comes probably as a very little surprise, if the jobs have very similar toolkits to their PvE counterparts, then it means that all of the healers can spam healing endlessly. As I understood it, in small-scale PvP like Crystalline Conflict would be, and I say would be because Crystalline Conflict was added together with the PvP rework, for those that don't know. In the old system, the way to make a match go somewhere was to kill the healer. These days, because healers have very limited healing, like they can heal a lot, yes, but it's not endless. It means that you can actually get something done. Right? The healers use their healing as tactical tools rather than just spamming it. I remember this one time where I did a 1v1 duel as Gunbreaker with one of my close friends who was also playing Gunbreaker. I believe we dueled for 15 minutes. Like 15 minutes straight. I won eventually. Because I happened to know that Bioshock at that time, and I say at that time because it had like 3 or 4 different iterations. At that time, Bioshock removed heal over time effects on your target, so I specifically delayed my Bioshock to whenever he used Aurora on himself. And he didn't. But it still took 15 minutes to win. And we both multiple times, we talked about it after the duel, we both considered multiple times just giving up and letting the other one have it. Multiple times. No, nope, we can't do it unless everyone's doing it, guys. And now someone's going. Now you missed that Mercurium. You missed the buff spread. That's on you, Wussel. You need to stick to me if you want the buffs. That's also part of the reason why it doesn't. I really don't appreciate that my team tries to like do some sort of split up tactics, because it doesn't help. Like I'm only powerful if we all stick together so that I can buff everyone. And I'm also really powerful if the enemy chooses to stick together. Incidentally. Yeah, downside to having a limit break like Seraph is that if they kill me while Seraph is up, she dies too. So when they see Seraph drop, Scholar becomes extremely important to kill, so that I don't get the extra value. But I hope that the distraction of them having to focus via me helped a lot, combined with the things that Seraph managed to do. That was the saddest slow walk from the machinist. He just slowly walked in and it wasn't fast enough to do anything. Let's see. Shadow Center says, now jobs are not designed with 1v1 in mind. That's true. In the old PvP system, most jobs, because they had, you know, a slightly smaller version of their PvE toolkit, slightly adjusted for PvP in like to take PvP in mind, it meant that you had a huge amount of tools. Every single job had an answer for nearly everything. Some jobs just had a better answer for certain things. But now, because all of the jobs are simplified to something along the lines of a single action bar in amount of stuff they can do, it means that no job can do everything, and most jobs relies on someone else. On one hand, that makes the jobs more balanced. On the other hand, that puts you as an individual player in a lot of situations where it feels like you couldn't do anything. Like if you're thinking as a solo player perspective. Nilifia says, I don't agree with that. You literally had to ban everything but DPS and old PvP 1v1. Well, yeah. I'm guessing because if you 1v1 the tank, it would never get anywhere, and if you 1v1 the healer, it wouldn't get you wouldn't get anywhere. Is that right? Like, if everyone has a little bit of everything, then it means that all the damage dealers have defensive cooldowns and defensive tools, but all the tanks also have a lot of damage tools. They just also happen to come with more tankiness and more defense. And all the healers also have damage, but they also come with more healing and potentially more tankiness by the simple fact that they can just heal themselves endlessly. If the DPS are heavily leaned towards doing more damage, and all the tanks and healers are heavily leaned towards dealing with that, then it's very likely that DPS would never win. On the other hand, now, if I understand correctly, ninjas, and to some degree samurai, especially, are kind of awkward to duel with. Because the ninja just has to survive until their limit break is ready, and then they have to get you down to half health and then limit break at just the right time. And then they win. Similarly, the samurai just has to survive until their limit break is ready, and then they just have to catch you with their cooldown. And they can keep attacking you while they try to catch you. Like, you have to be the one that is careful. They don't. Which makes it a very one-sided match. By all means, stay close together, enemies. This is what I mean by I assume that the players will learn to split up after the initial exchange, which loses me a lot of damage. Because if they don't, then they'll hopefully learn it the second time. And that was just a biolysis on one person. I didn't have the deployment tactics to push through for extra value. Oh, white mage limit break is ready. Oh, I didn't think the first deployment tactics went through, so I wasted one. This is not the time to use my limit break. I will probably just die, because I don't have any mana to continue the exchange. The samurai has limit break, that's why I'm a little scared doing anything to him. Yoink. That's a tasty buff you have there. Or tasty potion you have there. Now we have to be careful. The samurai is partying it up with this buff. Do it! Waste it! Go for it, man! I keep diving in, taking all of my MP and damage, and then going out again. I think we're losing this one. That was really close. They were 1% ahead of us. That was why the overtime went the way it did. Let's see. Lilithia says, back then, Reaper and Samurai completely dominated 1v1. Nothing could beat those, really, except for maybe Red Mage, which was insanely hard to play. I don't remember doing any actual PvP before the rework in Endwalker. I did some actual PvP in Shadowbringers, very briefly. I believe I only played healers back then. Because I wasn't sure what to attack, so it was just easy to say, if I just heal people. No, wait, I did play Sage in the old system, because I had a lot of fun just stalling on spots when it was like a capture point. Just standing on the point and stalling 3 other players trying to kill me. Double healer on both sides. Shadow Center says, I meant that now almost every job's PvP kit specifically has an empty slot because it was designed with teamwork in mind. For someone else to fill the void. Yeah. The only reason why I think that it gets a little bit awkward is that if the duel lasts long enough for limit break to become a thing, then a lot of jobs have limit breaks that are like, in a 1v1, it is almost able to single-handedly change a match. like change a fight. Like for instance, any job is in an awkward spot if a ninja just has to drop you to half health to kill you. And samurai being able to just counter kill you outright if you click on the wrong time. Both things makes it really, really difficult to get anything done. The monk limit break right on time. I think we might have turned the tide. Finally. And our white mage is immediately dead. Who are they fighting? Why are you trying to be a solo hero? Ah! I didn't see the wildfire. That's the first. I have not experienced getting killed by wildfire after the fact like that. Why are we ignoring the monk? He's going to kill me. He is going to kill me. We have to push extremely far to fix this. We need to just outlast this Sage limit break. Which is not happening. I spent everything I had. That's a loss. The ninja ran away instead of trying to prolong the timer. Speaking of Chukuchi Lilithia, have you noticed how that has pretty much been nerfed almost as many times as White Mage's Miracle of Nature? I think it's surprising that it's getting nerfed so often, because I feel like Shikuchi already feels really awkward to use. But I believe the most recent nerf was that it is 1 second shorter or something like that. You want to sprint and hide. I have actually recommended to friends that find it difficult to play in frontline to try Ninja, because it not only has so many defensive options, it has so many ranged options and a very easy getaway card, and it already still has all those things. The only downside is that Ninja has so many tools that compared to any other job in PvP, it has like twice the buttons. Which is maybe not the best way to get introduced to PvP. And our machine is too slow on the trigger. So we have to fall back. Is our machinist AFK? That would be an excellent way to lose a match. Now he's coming. Finally. Just as a general piece of advice, if you click yes to a duty of any kind in the game, it is the same as a ready check. Do not go AFK during a match. And the match begins when you click yes. Do not do that. I think one of the funniest things is that I notice very often that the warriors go in on me and weirdly drop dead way faster than they normally do, because they're going in expecting to get a lot more healing from their attack than they do, because mummification really guts that. We don't want to fight on the Sage limit break. I don't, at least. I'll disengage. That's not worth it. That's too much of a game swing. Yeah, that's true, Lilithia. I was reading that thing with Mug giving you back a mudra and thinking, is it a mudra? Really? But it's true, it's just a shuriken. Now, I think the interesting thing is that small details like that can heavily impact how people play a job. The fact that Mug gives you a shuriken means that they're practically telling you outright, you're supposed to start with the shuriken and then use Mug, because otherwise you're losing value, of course. Wouldn't it be a little too strong if it gave a mudra? I mean, if we think about it, Ninja, who's been getting PvP nerfs pretty much as frequently as White Mage, probably doesn't need more mudras. Hey Galmas, how are you doing? Yes, it would. Oh, we have Pepper Hands. Now we're going to win, probably, hopefully, maybe. Remove limit break, add 4 mudras. New ninja limit break is just called 10 Jin and gives you like 4 mudras to use. Separate from your mudra button, so you can click that instead to use an extra mudra. So you just see ninjas just spamming mudras. They look like something straight out of Naruto, just doing hand signs endlessly. And Gunsmoke says remove ninja. Oh, that's mean. That's maybe a bit overboard, I think. Where's the enemy coming from? Are they doing a sneak attack? Mm. I might be able to sneak in a heal here. I'm just gonna be a door stopper for the crystal for a sec. Don't mind me. Please stand on the crystal with me, somebody. Fun fact, you can push the crystal when they're on these checkpoints if you just outnumber the enemy. If you simply outnumber the enemy, then it'll still progress the percentage thing. And the reason why I just randomly, aggressively used Limit Break there was because if I use Seraph, it will actually manage to apply its healing before Bahamut manages to, like, resolve. Or around the same time, so if I see the Bahamut, I can counteract the vast majority of the damage that it does before it becomes a problem. And I was going to use Seraph anyway. Like, it was just a few seconds sooner than I had planned to do it. And Shadow Center says, new Limit Break is that that forbidden fourth mudra they talked about on the job quest. Deletes the enemy team. Balanced. Very balanced. Wait, where are we going now? Cloud 9. I don't know, Lilithia, whether Ninja would be better with a different limit break. I feel like the limit break that Ninja has is fitting for the job. I don't know if it's the best it could be, but I think it's fitting. If any job should have a limit break like that, Ninja would be the perfect fit. Hey Skin, how are you doing? It is going pretty well. We're progressing. We're increasing in rank. It's not going fast, but we're progressing. We're in gold. So, we're further than where we started, at least. But I understand why they've nerfed the Ninja Limit Break so many times. The original iteration where if you could just kill someone every 10 seconds or so, then you had infinite Limit Break, was completely insane. I remember my first Crystalline Conflict match as a ninja was, you know, one of those matches where the match just somehow keeps going and going and going and going and going in overtime in Volcanic Heart, and I had like 30 kills. Or 20, I remember it was like 20 or so at least. Because we just had the enemies walk in one at a time. And yeah, the Ninja Limit Break is very inconsistent. It's very janky because of how it is so strictly 50% to work. And whether the server decides to side with you or the enemy on that matter, on whether they were in fact at 50% when you clicked or not, tends to vary drastically. So I do understand that. It's very janky, very awkward to use. And Ninja Limit Break with Paladin's cover on someone is one of the most annoying things in the game, because as far as I know, when you use it, the game checks whether your target is near death, and if they are, it doesn't matter, because it'll just redirect to the Paladin, and it does not actually matter whether the Paladin is near death. They will just not do anything, and we have to hang back because the summon is a little bit slow. Why is the Gunbreaker just running in like Leroy Jenkins over here? Congratulations, you're dead again, because you couldn't wait. Oh, there's the turbulence incoming. I should try to not take one of those feathers. It's better if I don't get it. Oh boy. Well, at least I didn't try to attack him. Ah. Whew. That was an awkward exchange. The only reason why I survived that at all was because my Seraph kept the damage from the Black Mage at bay. Like, it was sort of equalizing it, just barely. Ah. That was fair. I believe I was closer to the feather, but sure, let the Black Mage have it randomly. I feel like in those situations that you just hand it to both players instead of doing that. But okay then. That might have been the game-winning play for them. And we can't keep them from catching us now. Exactly, split it in half and give both half of the effect, but instead it just means, nope, you lose. Completely. And we did, in fact. We might have lost because of that. Because, look, if this Sage gets the limit break on the point, then we lose. I don't like Cloud9. That was extremely unfair. What did we get? We got a logistics node mount. It's a ball! Let's check that out. I'll be right back. And then I'll be right back to the Wolf's Den Pier. We will check out the mount. Lilithia says they should make the ninja limit break a fixed damage. I think the reason why they don't do that is if the ninja's limit break just did like flat out half of someone's health and then applied the debuff, then it would be a lot easier to drive home kills by just doing the attack. And then just hoping that people will follow up on the huge damage that you just did. I think it's very much healthier that it is like it doesn't do much if it's not in the correct health range. Or you're suggesting that it just does 50% of someone's health and then it doesn't have the whole you can do it again if they die kind of mechanic onto it. Is that what you mean, Lilithia? That could also work. I do think that a limit break that can one by one kill the entire enemy team like the ninja limit break can is really difficult to balance. They keep nerfing the duration of the mechanic where you can use it again if they die. Yeah, that's true. Isn't it the way that it works now is that the duration is 1 second shorter for every time you repeat it or something like that? So it sounds like, at least from that perspective, that they don't mind that you do the chain, but they really don't want you to like chain it beyond like maybe 2 or 3. It's 4 seconds. Isn't 4 seconds the bottom limit? I'm pretty sure that it caps out at down to 4. I remember the timer used to be 10 seconds. I feel like they reduced it to 9 and made it so that it reduces by 1 second per time you repeat. Something like that. Well, if it is 1 second, it's completely impossible to use it. Nope, you don't get to sneak it by like that. Ha! The samurai died to my dot while he was hiding away trying to use his elixir. That's what killed him, was that my dot was just hanging out on him while he was trying to potion. That's really funny. And Gunsmoke says, do all game modes give the same amount of experience? Frontlines gives between 1000 and 1500 depending on whether you get first, second or third place. Crystalline Conflict gives 900 or 700 depending on whether you win or lose. And because Crystalline Conflict tends to be significantly shorter matches, you can usually like push a lot more matches through in the same amount of time. So I would say that if you're in it just for the XP difference, then you should do exclusively Crystalline Conflict. And I'm dead. That is also a good point from Lilithia. If you're in it just for the points, casual Crystalline Conflict, if you can get matches through, might go faster because it's a lot more volatile. It's much more likely that our team is just going to make a huge mistake right at the outset and immediately lose the match. But that is not a guarantee. And then you're also sort of entering a competitive environment basically with the intent to lose, which is maybe not the healthiest way to go about it either. Trucks. I really wanted to be able to use my limit break, but I knew that once my guard dropped I would die immediately, so I had to just keep it. If I can get back into the game and we have something left, we might be able to turn it with my limit break. But I don't think we will. Well, the only reason why I'm saying that that it's a lot more volatile and it's likely that you lose Lilithia is in casual, the skill range is so wide that unless you are confident that you are the strongest player in every match, there's equally a high chance that someone on your team is the worst player in the match. And the opponent is one of the best players. Let's see. Let's see here, Lilithia. Let's read it. Defeating an enemy with this action. So, when you use Sight on Tenshu on someone, it applies Deathlink for 4 seconds. If they die with Deathlink on, then you get the refresh. If they die outright, then it will of course not apply Deathlink, but it will give you the reuse again anyway. The reuse has an 8-second duration. Right? And then it says effect duration is reduced by 1 second each time it is applied to a target with a minimum duration of 4 seconds. So if you get it refreshed 4 times, then it's 4 seconds. So it is 8 seconds. Yeah, I guess that was what was happening, Lilithia. It's with really long limit breaks, it can be difficult to determine what on earth they're even doing. I actually, because of how convoluted tooltips can be to read sometimes, I actually have a guide on how to read tooltips in Final Fantasy XIV. Because they can get convoluted, especially when they get really long-winded. Lilithia says, I use your guides a lot. That's how I got to know of you in the first place. Well, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. And good luck in Crystalline Conflict, Gunsmokes. Shadow Center says, in casual, that's where you see all the dumb shenanigans actually working. I never touch ranked, really, because I'm too competitive for my own good sometimes. The only reason why I recommend going into ranked is because if you're good, like, let's say that you see yourself as a gold player, for example. Then, if you are a gold player, then on average, you will win more than you lose if you're not, like, when you're below gold, and you will lose more than you win when you're above gold. So you will automatically move your way to gold, which means that you're more likely to get paired up with somewhat equally skilled players. Of course, gold has the disadvantage of being matched with anything below gold. But if you get to platinum, then you get then you start getting matched with better players. And Olivia says, what data center are you on? I am on Chaos in EU. Yeah, I would not like to play on NA. I had enough of a sorta like awkward connection problems when I played League of Legends on NA servers over a decade ago. I had enough already by that point. That is really early turbulence, isn't it? Ah. I don't know if that was worth it for the white mage, because I had to like tap out of the fighting anyway. Why did the summoner just back away like that? That was so random. It seems like the enemy team is a lot better at capitalizing on stacking all of their AoE potential together than we are, which makes it very clear that they are going to win. And now that we are in this position, the only thing we can do is try to prolong the match, but because we're outnumbered, there's basically no chance. See, Shadow Synthesis. It's fair, but that's what I mean by I'm too competitive. I get frustrated with lesser skilled players easily, even when I know they're still learning, because now I have something to lose in ranked. It takes the fun out of it. Yeah, I get that. That's why, so when I played Crystalline Conflict in Season 1, specifically, I played with the express aim to get to Crystal rank, which resulted in me being very stressed about it, because I wanted to get it quickly so that, you know, I could move on and do something else. And every time you lose, that means, well, I have to play at least 2 more matches, because, well, I have to, well, at least 1 more match, because I have to recover what I lost, and then I still have to win the same amount of times again after that. Which makes it extremely annoying if you have a specific target. But if you go into PvP with something unrelated to your rank as your target, then this is no longer an issue. Like, if your target is to reach, you know, series rank 30, or series level 30, then you don't do any, like, then you don't mind when you lose, because you still progressed. And if, on the other hand, if you're specifically aiming to rank, then the best piece of advice I've heard is that a lot of players that try to rank high, the way that they go about it is that they only play when the map they're best at is on. Like, why split up your time practicing all 4 different maps if you're really good at Volcanic Heart and tend to win that one? You're not here to train, you're here to win. So you're only going to be playing matches that you're going to win. Now the turbulence is on really early again. Uh-oh. I didn't mean to steal it from him. Ah. So close. The scariest part about dying in Crystalline Conflict is that like 5 seconds where the screen is completely dark and you don't know if you're going, like, if the screen is going to turn on again with everyone in your team dead. Ah! That was a huge mistake on my part. And Lilithia, there's actually a massive amount of cheating still in PvP. Just recently I've seen stream clips of people using like a speed hack momentarily on a Dragoon to just like zip a limit break from an unfair range, like completely impossible distance. They're still cheating. It's still happening. The thing is that when people use cheats in Final Fantasy XIV, the way that it works is that instead of getting banned immediately, it's very common that companies in general will wait so that they can catch as many people thinking that it is safe to use as possible. Just ban all of them at once instead of just catching the individual. Like, it's like a big fishing net, but it of course has the unwanted, undesirable effect of a lot of players feeling like the development team isn't really doing anything and just letting people cheat. And as far as I know, cheating in PvP is most prevalent in extremely high rank. So not in bronze, not in unranked, not in silver, not in gold, not in platinum, not in diamond. We're talking, as Lilithia said, up in the top 100. People are cheating to be the top 100, so of course they would be cheating there. That's where you will find the cheaters. And the thing is that cheating at that stage, it takes a lot of forms. And when I say a lot of forms, I mean there has been examples of speed hacks. However, it should be stated, and I'm just saying this because there is a chance that that's the real reason. If you lag, like you have a lag spike, so the game cuts for a second or two, and the Dragoon uses their backflip and then their limit break, and I will demonstrate it for you. It will take a little bit because we have to actually get the limit break to be able to show this. That'll be 90 seconds. But the reason why that's important is because elusive jump increases your movement speed. That still works if you're in the air from sky high. Some players don't know that. So when they see sky high move faster, they immediately jump to conclusions and assume cheats, right? Obviously the enemy doesn't know something you do. You don't. They're cheating. And if you're lagging, so like the game cuts for 2 seconds, then sky high can look like it moves like 20 yawns in an instant, because what you see is sky high being, you know, all the way over there, there's something down over there, and suddenly it's just up to you, and it looks like a speed hack. It looks clearly like cheating. It's so obviously looking like cheating, but it might not be. But there are other ways to cheat. Fixing matches. I know this particularly because I am in the I am in the Revival PvP Discord server, and in Chaos it was very common back in Season 1 for people to ask whether the queues were safe, so to speak. I believe they specifically said if the queues were bumping or something like that. And it was like code word for whether people were match fixing. Now let me demonstrate the sky high thing. So I can't really demonstrate the speed difference, but what you can see is that it's running speed that I'm moving with, and it's still running speed that I'm moving with when I'm in the air. So getting that 25% speed boost is still 25% more in the air. But yeah, the reason why it was important to know whether there was win trading going on or match fixing is because if you play, I don't know, if you do Crystalline Conflict ranked at 8 in the morning, based on your server, of course, like if you're playing in NA, it should be 8 in the morning in America that we're talking about, but you know, local 8 in the morning on a work day, there's not going to be a short queue. That queue is not happening, probably. But if it is happening, there's a very high chance that something is fishy. The reason for that is if there are 10 players in queue in total, right? If there's 10 people in queue in total in your like range, like your rank range or your tier range, then it means that if all 10 players queue at once, they are guaranteed to end up in the same match. If they're all in on it, they can just force a particular side to win and progress. And so if there's a limited amount of players on to do matches, then one player could be multi-boxing. Hypothetically, they could be logged in on 2 accounts at the same time. And if they are both, you know, crystal or diamond or something like that, so that they are in the same tier range, then both of them queue as the same job. So let's say the person plays ninja, then he queues as ninja on his ult as well. They will not land on the same team because there can only be one ninja on each team, and should they land in the same match, and they probably will, because there is only one match happening at that very moment, then he can simply lag out on his ult and disconnect and take the L, and now the enemy is only 4 players, right? Instead of 5. Now, I'm saying this, I'm telling you this so that you can identify it when it happens. You should report people when you can identify who's doing the win trading. But that's another example of cheating where you can't even tell for certain You don't know for certain. It's not as obvious as someone using a literal hack, right? But it's incredible when there is some sort of reward on the line, something you can get that you could have that others maybe couldn't have, that people will cheat like that. But I mean, we already we have been reminded of that again with the world first race on Omega, right? And as Lilithia said, they're going to get the Harmless mods banned by doing these shenanigans and using harmful mods and hacks and cheats. They're going to get the things that aren't really a problem for anyone to get it to be disallowed too. And when I say the harmless mods, it's things like small visual changes, like, oh, you have a different hairstyle, or you're using G-shade or something. But it's actually really difficult to be sure what is or isn't harmful, because G-shade could be used to gain an advantage. It's just a lot more complicated to explain how. In the first raid tier of Endwalker, I believe the Phoenix P3S, people complained that the room was way too orange, so you couldn't see mechanics. Like, you can't see mechanics because everything's too orange. So people use G-shade to make the color, the things in the room that were too orange, make them gray, so that you could see something. You could see what you were doing. Now, the reason that in and of itself is not a problem, when you make the assumption that, well, everyone can just do that, right? We can just all do it, and then we can all see what we're doing. The reason why it doesn't work like that is because we have a console-based player base also that literally they can't actually use G-shade. So even if it's relatively harmless to just change the color of the orange smoke in the boss room, it gives you an inherent advantage over players that can't do that. Right? So that's why, based on what I can tell, the discourse in discussions around this subject right now is that the only way to make a actually fair and balanced world first race is if everyone participating is actively live streaming and showing that they're not using any mods at all. Because if they use any mods, it could mean that they have an advantage of any kind. And that's true. And just in case anyone's wondering, my stance on the matter is I don't use any mods. For multiple reasons. The first one is, as I make content on Final Fantasy XIV, it would be extremely bad to showcase things that are literally officially illegal while making content. That doesn't give me a very good relationship with Square Enix either, should there ever be a direct relationship between me and Square Enix or the development team, right? Better to not do it. The second one is that there are people that watch my guides, and if my game looks extremely different from theirs, it might be more difficult for them to follow. So it's important that my game looks mostly like what the game looks like on console, right? So that completely removes me from having to worry about using mods at all, because I can't, because I need to make sure that my game looks correct. So it's not even a question. But I have nothing against people using visual mods. Like changing your hair or making it so that you have a different chest piece on. The only time that it sort of concerns me is I have seen people share screenshots of their game where my character suddenly looks different because of their mods. That annoys me greatly. For some reason, there's a mod that specifically overrides my glasses to become sunglasses, which looks ridiculous. For some reason, that's the one. And the reason why I know that it is something that the mod chooses by default is because I saw 2 or 3 separate, different people sharing each their own screenshots, and they all had me with those glasses. Yeah, that is a really good point, Lilifia. That if the developers don't make a point of punishing heavy use of mods, then ultimately what is going to happen is that it's going to be required to use mods, as it is in other MMOs. Some other MMOs. Wow. Can you finish the job? Thank you. Now use some limit breaks. Even the score. Get them. Or die. That works too. It's okay, I took nearly all they had. And now you're choosing to use this opportunity to save your limit breaks. I get it. He's dead. Dot snapshotting. The thing with using adding a damage meter is that, and you have probably heard this story before, but the reason why they won't add a damage meter is because if there is a Square Enix sanctioned damage meter that they themselves have added to the game, then they are basically saying that it is allowed to talk about it. The reason why they don't do that is because if it was allowed, then people would talk badly about everyone's damage. And the thing is that ultimately what this leads to is this. In World of Warcraft, it is not allowed to discuss what the DPS meter says, right? It isn't off the table, which has the resulting factor that people will complain about people doing worse on the damage meter. The fact that it is not allowed to talk about the damage meter in game at all means that no one's going to complain. No one's going to be mean about it. And that is the correct way to go about it, Joshua. Like, that is the healthy option. If it was just that, if like, that would actually probably be fine if there was the possibility of having a DPS meter that was only your damage. But even that could be used maliciously. I think. Yeah, like, for me, the only thing that I would care about to have a DPS meter would be to see if I'm doing fine as well. That would be my interest. And the thing is that if you're worried about whether your damage, like your damage in general, is good enough, you shouldn't need to have a DPS meter live in a raid to be able to see that. If you're performing your rotation correctly, like, let's say you're performing the rotation you know is good, right? You know this rotation does good damage and you're doing it with mostly no mistakes. Then you can probably assume that you're doing the best damage you can do. And if you're doing the best damage you can do, the only thing you're missing is knowing how much is that. Beyond that, you don't need to know exactly how much damage you're doing. If you can simply know that you're doing the rotation correctly, like if you're enough of a policeman for yourself to take a close eye on, did I make any mistakes in my rotation? Like, if you're playing a black mage, did I spend too much time just running instead of casting, or repositioning and cancelling too many spells? And obviously you're not doing good damage. If you're not lining your cooldowns up with the raid, then you will do less damage than if you did. But it's not a requirement to perfectly line up all of your cooldowns with the raid to be something like P5S. And the reason why I'm saying this, that all you need to know is that how much damage your optimal rotation can do, is all you need to know, is because Square Enix actually has put into the game a tool in the game to see how much damage you can do. That is in the game. That is in fact in the game. It's called Stone Sky Sea. Or is it Stone Sea Sky? And if you know how much damage you can do by beating a striking dummy in Stone Sky Sea, then you know how much damage your optimal rotation will do, approximately. And if you're doing that, then you know how much damage you can do. Then you don't need to know whether you are, like, how much damage you're doing exactly number by number, right? What matters is whether you're strong enough. And the reason why I'm doing this is to showcase you exactly how that looks. You just beat a striking dummy like this. Now, the thing I want you guys to keep in mind is when this dummy dies, I want you to keep a close eye on the timer. Because that's what we're going to need. And the reason why I'm going Paladin is because I know exactly, I have practiced this rotation so much that I can do that in my sleep. And Lilithia says it would probably get used maliciously in raids statics, I think, which there you could just leave the static. Well, the thing is that if a static is using a DPS meter, they would probably just discuss the DPS on Discord. So that is a completely different story. The reason why it is a problem is because it would be used maliciously in Group Finder. I actually have a guide on what this is. It's called, I believe it's called something like Stone Sky Sea, Final Fantasy XIV's own legal DPS meter. Or DPS checker, might be the wording. Because it's an obscure piece of content. An interesting thing I can point out is that I know that my clear time on this particular fight with Paladin ranges from not beating it to 21 seconds left over. So it would be extremely funny if my crit luck is so bad that I can't actually beat it on time, right? Actually, Stone Sky Sea also exists in Stormblood. That's where we're going next. If you've seen any of my recent job guides, you'll see that as the level, like in my guides for level 50 to 90 jobs, you'll see that the place that I'm demonstrating in changes as my level increases. That's because I basically trek from Stone Sky Sea to Stone Sky Sea, because each of these Stone Sky Sea locales happen to have a synced encounter. 11 seconds. So, yes, we killed it. That means I did 6,301 DPS. And if you want to check my numbers, you go to that website. And if you don't feel safe clicking it because it has an obscure name on it, that's okay. But that website is the DPS calculator. So you go into this tool, click Endwalker expansion, the 8th circle Savage down at the bottom, choose Paladin, click yes to killing the dummy, and then you add time remaining 11 seconds. And then you'll see exactly how much damage. And the way this is calculated is that someone figured out how much health the striking dummy has. If you know how much health it has, you know how much damage you did. And the reason why it's important to keep that in mind is because every single Stone Sky Sea encounter has a different health amount. But every single encounter has a different health amount for every single job. So the DPS striking dummy has more health, while the healer one has drastically less, so that it is feasibly possible to kill it. The reason why it's important to kill it is because the purpose behind Stone Sky Sea is, if you can kill it, if you can kill the striking dummy, then your DPS is high enough that you can kill the encounter associated with it before the enrage. If there is an enrage, and if there's not an enrage, then it's simply a check to see if you can kill it in a reasonable amount of time. So, The important thing about unlocking Stone Sky Sea, and let's just take a moment to check this, and for anyone checking in now and wondering where the PvP is, we're in the later part of the stream where I tend to like round up the stream, talk a little bit with the chat about this and that, and we're taking a little look at how to check your DPS in the game legally. So my guide on Stone Sky Sea actually includes how to unlock Stone Sky Sea in every single expansion. If I remember correctly, now this is off the top of my head, if you have not unlocked Stone Sky Sea, there's an NPC somewhere around here with a plus, like an exclamation mark with a plus on it. You talk with him, and then there's going to be an NPC that you'll have to talk to out here. And it is the Goodly Adventurer. And then you can go to fight, and then you can see here's a bunch of encounters. And the key one that I have used mostly is this one. Because this one is a reliable way to get scaled to level 60 and fight a striking dummy. That's how I demonstrate abilities from level 60, or from level 50 to 60 in my job guides nowadays. That was based on a tip that I got from someone. I can't remember who it was, but someone suggested that I could try and find fates and stuff to scale with. Skin says, a personal DPS meter seems way less convoluted. Just my opinion. I put myself out there on FF logs and don't mind people seeing if I do good or bad DPS. That's how I learned to be a beast. The reason why this is separated with this convoluted step, Skin. The reason why there is this convoluted extra step to do this is because it means that technically, oh, okay, Shadow Center, have a good time. See you very soon. The extra step here where you need to fight the striking dummy means that instead of you being able to see how much damage you just did, they are putting it up against a test. It should be enough for your raid team to know that you can beat the Stone Sky Sea dummy. They should not need to know how much damage you did to it. Your DPS is sufficient if you can kill the striking dummy associated with the encounter. And the reason why that's important is because, as you have seen in World of Warcraft, if you've played World of Warcraft, people will kick you if if you're not like doing your part. In Final Fantasy XIV, this also happens in group fight. It can happen if someone is particularly out of line and too weak. What will happen is that there's a good chance that the party will disband and remake without you. But that's typically very tedious, so often people will simply ignore that and try anyway. Max of the West says, bit off topic, but do you know where I could find a graphical settings guide? See what consumes more resources, etc. I don't know. What I can say for me personally is that I have a 3080. That might not be important. I'm just going to explain what I have. I run the game at 120 FPS at 4K, and I don't run the game at max settings. You can see there's a few different things that I have reduced. Particularly one thing that I think people tend to notice, especially when I'm hanging out on that ship in Wolf's Den Pier, is some of my shadows look really, really weird. Like you can see here. You can see this shadow here. This shadow here. As I approach it, it sort of like draws itself in nicer. Yeah, Lilith, yeah, I'm running at 120 FPS and 4K resolution. And also streaming. My fans also go a little crazy a little bit, but the thing is that it's not that loud. Otherwise, you guys would be able to hear it. Anyway, as I said, there is Stone Sky Sea for every single expansion except A Realm Reborn. There is nothing for level 50. Even though I wish there was. It would be nice to demonstrate some abilities at level 50 instead of having to seek out a fate or something to do that. I don't know what I can suggest you max for your graphical settings, but I think shadows and those reflections that I've turned down help a lot. And Lilithia says, is there a way to get into Stone Sky Sea instead of going to the NPC? No, you have to go to the NPC, unfortunately. However, if you find it difficult to keep track of where they are, then they are all showcased exactly where they are in this video that I put up there. I show where the NPCs are supposed to be to unlock it, and I show where you are supposed to go to use it, and then I talk a little bit about how it works. It would be nice if it was a little bit easier to get to. But I think it's good enough that it is there. But yeah, the reason why I feel that it is a good thing that there is not a DPS meter, and at the same time the stuff we have is a little bit convoluted, is because, so here's the thing. If you are in a static, you can discuss, you know, a DPS meter entirely in Discord, disconnected from the game. You can talk about the damage numbers and everything on an FF logs if that's what you want to do, and completely disconnect from the game in that regard. You can do it in your own way. If there was a personal DPS meter anywhere on the screen, then you could feasibly get in a situation where people ask that you send a screenshot after a wipe. They say, take a screenshot with your DPS meter there and send it to us so we can see your performance. Technically, that would be legal because it's the personal DPS meter. They're simply requesting that you don't hide it. And if, like, why would you hide it? If you're hiding it, it means you have something to hide, right? So, surely you don't mind sending us a screenshot of your personal damage. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh, you're doing less than everyone else? That's not so good now, is it? And then you can see how it would become a problem. The difference is that when you have to run the DPS meter in a third-party tool, then it becomes a lot more complicated, especially because you can't say a word about it in game or you might get banned. That's why these are the reasons why the development team is taking the stance that they want to give nothing. Like they're giving no quarter, because if they give a finger, the people that are going to use this maliciously is going to take the arm. And when they then go backsies on it and say, oh, you can clearly not control this, everyone that weren't using it maliciously gets sad. So, to protect everyone, they're doing this. As I have said in a relatively recent video about janky optimization, sometimes the dev team makes some weird change to a job or a mechanic in the game to protect the players from themselves. For example, when they made it so that hide doesn't when hide now deletes your Doton, they simultaneously reduced the duration of Doton to 18 seconds. Because if it had stayed at 24, then there would still be a reason to place Dotton prematurely. You just, you know, use it when the pull timer is 20. And then there's a chance that the boss might stumble into the Dotton and get a single tick. So instead of leaving that shenanigans, they make the duration 18 seconds. Now you can't do it without losing single target DPS from having one less mudra. And it was really janky, really awkward to use Dotton on single target in general. So they nerfed it so it's weaker than Raiton, and then people went, well, I can still place it, and then they made the hide thing. Like, they have gradually done these things because the players clearly can't manage it. And Skin says, what if the DPS meter only showed up in Savage or harder content and it was only a personal DPS meter? Same problem. And Max says, I used to go every time to the Yulma one until I found out there were other ones sprinkled around the towns. Yeah, so one thing that is really important about unlocking Stone Sky Sea is also that you need to unlock the Heavensward one first. That unlocks the feature. If I remember correctly, you can unlock all the other ones in any order you like, but you have to unlock the Heavensward one to unlock the feature. And it is weirdly hidden away. I just also want to like circle back and say I would love to have a personal DPS meter legally in the game. I would love that. But just from my experience from World of Warcraft, and for anyone curious, I've played World of Warcraft for like 15 years. The community can't, like these kinds of MMO communities can't handle it. We can't, there are too many bad eggs that will use it maliciously. And having it legally in the game will make them find ways to use it maliciously. The reason why people want to use ACT and stuff like that instead is because being able to see how much damage you do on that specific fight tells you a bit more. You have to keep in mind that when you're practicing something on a striking dummy in Stone Sky Sea, there's a lot of things you're missing. For instance, if you're in a party with at least one of every role, you just do like flat out 5% more damage. Something like that. Approximately 5% more damage. And each of the raid buffs are going to make you do more damage. You will see, for instance, if you're practicing a rotation for Dark Knight, if you're practicing your opener and rotation as a Dark Knight in Stone Sky Sea, the problem that arises with you practicing is that Dark Knight does not have any burst damage buffs. They use Edge of Shadow and then they have a permanent 10% damage buff, which means that doing the opener with concentrating all of your OGCDs into a really short time window is completely unnecessary because all of your attacks do their full damage. You can just click them when they're ready. No reason to stockpile when you're playing alone. Besides, TBN will not activate. You can't stack that extra damage. So it will be different. You will probably do a lot more damage in a raid context. But, and this is the important part, if you can beat the striking dummy, then the damage you're doing is good enough. So you don't need the DPS meter to check that you're still doing good enough. I did some research on this particular aspect for a video a while back. Let me see if I can find it. It's a little while back. I believe it is this video. where I compare the numbers of what people actually did versus how much is expected of you and how much damage you actually need to do and things like that. It is very much possible to beat over a boss with more gear. Yeah, Nilivia says, people have been harassing others over housing. Precisely. So, Gunsmoke says, is Final Fantasy XIV badly optimized? It might be. I don't think it's badly optimized, but it's not perfect. It's not perfect. But there's going to be a graphical update coming with the next expansion, I believe. And that might both increase the graphics, but also might make it run a little bit better. Gunsmoke says, I put the game to max quality, GPU temps jump to 80 Celsius. Depending on what kind of GPU you have, that might not be a problem. The important thing for you then is figure out what are natural temperatures for your GPU to be at when it's going full speed. My GPU tends to be around the 80 when it's going full blast. And it goes full blast when playing Final Fantasy XIV. As long as it doesn't overheat, then it isn't an issue. It's cooking you alive. Oh yeah, I don't have any heating on in this room either. It's my computer keeping me warm. What's a good program to check how hot your internals are? I don't know. But I do know that I use NVIDIA's this thing, the overlay. You can see here my GPU is at 83. But it's also, you know, going full blast, as I said. Completely crazy. Yeah, you can go into the settings and add like a keybind to open this. You just have to, I believe the default if you have the program running is to hold Alt and press Z. Z. And then you can go in and set this to be advanced, and I believe this overlay opens on Alt R by default. And you can keep track of it. Piece of advice: if you don't normally keep a close eye on this, and you start doing it, you're going to get extremely paranoid about it. So don't worry too much about it. Your computer isn't suddenly becoming bad because you started looking at it. It's just that you didn't pay attention to it before. Now you're seeing how much it's working. It was doing that all the time. And I'm saying this because when I started, whenever I look closely at these numbers, I scare myself. And get worried that my computer's going to explode. Only be worried if it's 90 plus Celsius. Yeah, that sounds right. And you can see I have a lot of leeway for that. And I could probably dust off my computer and it would help a little bit too. Oh, and just as a little bit of a catch-up on this PvP thing, I believe we started at Silver 3, so I feel like this was decent. This was decent progress. Just in general. And then we also got to Series Milestone 15. Well, if there's anything you guys would like to ask or talk about in particular before we round up the stream, this is a great time to do so. Lilithia says, what was the keybind to see your internals? So, you hold Alt and press R. That's the keybind, at least in my computer. I believe it was on my previous one as well, so I'm pretty sure it's the default. If it doesn't show the extended bit, then you need to press, I believe it's Alt Z to open the expanded overlay where you can go in and adjust it, and there you can change it to be the advanced version. But I would recommend, if you haven't done much Crystalline Conflict PvP before, to try it. Originally, I started doing Crystalline Conflict PvP streams to inspire people to try it when it was completely new. Well, when it was still sort of new and was kind of losing traction because I started on it in Season 3. And I still think that that is something that is important, because PvE content sort of keeps itself alive through having a bunch of weekly and daily content that is right in your face. PvP is far more secluded, and unlike PvE content, with PvE content you just need, some people to show up eventually. Often you can find groups to do it. PvP lives and dies by whether there are enough people to play. Case in point, when I quit Season 3 was because I spent over 30 minutes in queue and nothing popped. Like around this time, actually 2 hours earlier or so. Basically the season was dying. People were done. And then that makes it problematic for a streamer to play. Because I can't say we're doing Crystalline Conflict. I can't say we're doing Crystalline Conflict and then just sit and watch a queue for 45 minutes. That's why I switched over to doing frontline streams. Anyway, let's see here. So, as we are about to round up the stream, I would like to advertise that the YouTube channel has a Discord server. I've just pasted a endless link, like a infinite life link that will stay relevant forever, or until Discord deems that it is no longer staying for whatever reason. And if you like to see what's going on the YouTube channel, it might be the best way to keep track of things, because if you've seen, I put up weekly schedules on the YouTube channel. Oh, nice! And there is dedicated room where the weekly schedules appear, and they stay there, so you can always keep track of what's going on the channel. And if I post something, like put a new video up or plan a stream or something like that, it always also appears on the Discord server. Sometimes it appears there first. And on the Discord server, you avoid the potential issue of the YouTube algorithm deciding whether you're actually interested or not. You will be able to know when things are posted. And sometimes we discuss fun things on the Discord server. Just today, I had a discovery. If you watched a stream I did a while back called Can I Solo That? We ran into the issue that it was not possible to solo Zaryu because he had a stack marker that would kill you if you didn't have an invulnerability. Today I discovered that Paladin can survive it. So I shared my findings. And sometimes we discuss random stuff. There's also channels to share memes, to ask questions about the game. That can be to me, it can be to other knowledgeable people, because the awesome thing about a YouTube channel, about YouTube guides and stuff like that, guides on YouTube, is that a lot of people that like to know things about the game congregate there, which means that there's a better chance that a lot of people know things. So you have more people that can help you. And we also have places to share your cute glamours and music interests and server suggestions and stuff like that. There's a lot. But the particularly useful ones are probably being able to see the weekly schedule and new videos and stuff. I think that is everything that I have on the table. Really awesome that there was a lot of people showing up tonight. I was a little bit afraid that there wasn't very much interest for PvP, but it seems like it's still very popular, at least on streams. I don't know how popular PvP is as a whole, but I'm glad to see that people still want to watch it. And that does mean that we're sort of leading to the end of the stream. We got more matches than I had planned to do. I had a minimum expectation of 13 matches, but we have at least won 13 just tonight. I believe I had 2 wins already. We are at 15 now. So, with all that out of the way, thank you all so much for watching, and good night, or good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. And I'll see you guys really soon. Maybe on the premiere on Friday, or maybe on the MSQ stream on Saturday. Maybe not the Lilithia if you're still working on the MSQ yourself. Anyway, that's all I have. Good night, and see you very soon.